G'day guys, down here. So we're just about ready to go for the sand. So I've been down to Bunnings and hired some equipment. I've hired a big heavy duty floor sander, so belt sander there, and also a little edger. So about 80 odd bucks for a 24-hour hire for both those bits of kit. That's together. And also coming with them was some instructions, so they've got a bit of an idiot's guide to using them. So we'll see how that goes. I've also bought a whole stack of sanding belts for the big machine, and also the sanding discs that go onto the little machine. So what I'm going to start with, there's a couple of these 40 grit for the belt sander, which I'm anticipating are going to be pretty savage. So they're designed just to rip down all those big gaps, those big lips in between the floorboards where I need to take about 3, 4, 5 mil off. So I'll go over the worst areas with those first and really rip them down, and then I'll step up the grits from there, and I'll end with a 120, which will be the last sand. So I'll step down progressively. I've got all the grits in between, and a 120 will be the last sand before I put the varnish over the top. I've got the same progression of grits for the edge sander as well, because you can't get into all the corners with the big machine, so you need the smaller one for that. Anticipate that it's going to kick out a lot of dust, so I've got a decent respirator there. It'll make a bit of noise, I reckon, so I've got the earmuffs there and some protective goggles. I don't imagine it'll kick too much up, but I'll chuck them on anyway, protective glasses. So I will set all this up and get started. Right, I think I'm all set. So I've set the machine up with a 40 grit belt on it. I've got my dust bag on here. From what I can gather, and from videos that I've watched on YouTube, you want to start diagonal to the grain of the boards, and so I'm going to start that way. I'm going to start towards the back here just in case something unexpected happens. I didn't want that to be up the front just in case I have a bit of a false start. But the machine's got a lever here that actually lowers the sanding disc onto the surface that you're sanding, and then you can pull it back and withdraw it, so bring it up, and it just runs on its wheels. So you want to start with the sanding disc up off the surface you're sanding, start the machine, and then engage it as you're moving along. And so you don't want the sanding disc sitting there for any period of time and it just burn a hole in the ground. So dig a divot, which you don't want to do. So look, I'll try all that, and we'll see what sort of result we can get. So I'll just pull it up there and give you a bit of a look at progress. So that's just a couple of minutes of sanding with a 40 grit, as you've seen. And what we've got, it's working really quite well. So there's the contrast between where I've sanded and where I haven't. So you can see the boards are coming up quite nicely. The Jarrah, which is a bit lower than the pine, so I don't expect it to come up until I get down a bit lower and really cut into that Jarrah there. And also it's a harder board, so it'll probably take a bit more sanding, but there's the contrast there. So there's the old polish coming off the old boards and the nice pine underneath, and all this dirt on the dirty boards is starting to come off and really rip into a nice clean Baltic pine finish. So this board here, you can see it's actually quite low, so there's a lip in there, and you can appreciate there that there's a bit of work to do to bring that to level so that the belt just isn't hitting that board, because it's skimming over the top. It's hitting this board and that board high on both sides. So that's the concept. I'll crack on with the 40 grit and work my way around, and then I'll record another bit of a video. I mean, the concept's the same. What I'm going to do is the diagonals first, so diagonal strokes as best I can, trying not to get too close to the edge, because at one point I think I hung the wheel off the edge there and really bit into this area here, which isn't a big problem. I'm sure I can sand that out at this point. I've got a bit of meat to work with on those boards, but I want to be a bit cautious of those edges there so I don't drop the wheel off and really dig that sanding belt down in. But anyway, I'll crack on with this, and then I'll record another bit of a video once I'm I've done a bit more sanding. Okay guys, cheers. So here we are at about the 2-hour mark, or probably a little less, about 90 minutes. I'm still sanding on the 40 grit on my second belt only, so second lot of paper. And as you can see, we're really starting to, it's really starting to come down to near level. There's a lot of really deep sanding grooves from where where the harsh sandpaper's bitten in, but I anticipate I'll be able to get them out no problems at all with the lesser grades, and none of this area around the edge has been touched. I'm not drifting too far towards the edge with this thing. Up the end here I did actually hang the wheels off the edge, and I don't know if you can quite see it, but the drum bit in and created a bit of a lip there, so I'll give that another good sand, but I certainly don't want to be making a habit of that. That's just the wheels dropped off the edge, and so the drum, the full weight of the machine was on the drum, and it really bit in. But it's coming up pretty well. There's a couple of areas here that are quite persistently low, and I'll keep eating away at them. So that board there still needs a fair bit of work. But the lip now, where it was about 5mm, has come down to maybe 1.5 to at max. So also down here, a couple of areas where you can still see the varnish from the old boards. So I'm going to change belts again. It's time to do that, and I'll stick with the 40 grit, but I anticipate this will be my last 40. The sanding diagonally across the board seemed to have worked really well. I think that's a great bit of advice. As I said, I got that off the internet, off a different video on YouTube, and it seems to work a treat rather than going up and down. The recommendation was once you get down the lower grains to start going up and down, and I'll do that. But I'll stick with the 40 grit diagonal for this next lot, and I'll check in once I'm done with that. So that's a little over 2 hours in, and 3 belts of the 40 grit paper, and I'm pretty happy with where that's at now in terms of getting it level. So for the first cut with the 40 grit and a really harsh sand, I've taken all the dirt off those boards, and you can start to appreciate the pattern of the contrasting Jarrah and Baltic pine that I was trying to achieve. So that's looking pretty good. As stated earlier, terrible match on the wood putty there, so that's not a great result. I probably should have trialled that first, but anyway, I can live with that, I think. If we go over to the corner here, this gives you a bit of an appreciation as to how close you can get to the edges with the floor sander. So those boards are 85mm thick, so it's almost 2 boards there, so probably about 160 mils is the closest you can get with that, and then you've got to use the edger, so I'll go into that in a minute. But sorry, I'll go on to that a bit later after I've finished sanding the floor. So what I'm going to do now is put on start working up the grit, so getting a bit finer with my sanding, and I'll step down from the 40 to a 60 and give it a once over. Hopefully that should be a bit quicker, but now that I've done all the hard sanding, got all the lips out of it, it should be a bit of a quicker process, and just start working out some of the deep sanding grooves that the 40 grit's left, and start picking up. There's still a few bits and pieces that are a bit uneven, but I don't think any major problems. I think I'll be able to pick them up as I work my way up the grain. So there we go. I tried to attack this bit of fascia with the floor sander. I tried to run some planks down either side, some boards down either side to create a flat surface, but it just didn't work. So as frustrating as that was, I'm going to have to use the edger, I think, to attack that. But I'll crack on with the floor for the time being and worry about that problem later. Okay, cheers.